Growing up, when I was a kid, my dad had a favorite movie. It's still his favorite movie. And you know that if you have parents that have a favorite movie, you're probably going to see that movie a lot of times. And my parents' favorite movie was fortunately one that I also liked. It was called The Princess Bride. All right, The Princess Bride. So, growing up as a kid, I watched that movie a lot. It's usually on Father's Day, my dad would put it on. We'd all have to watch it. Every Mother's Day, we had to watch Pride and Prejudice, the original BBC version that's 4 hours long, which, to be honest, I kind of grew to like anyway. But also, I liked Princess Bride a lot more. So, there's this character in the movie that I love named Inigo Montoya. And Inigo Montoya's story, if I can summarize it briefly, is this. I'm telling the story. Inigo Montoya's story is something along the lines of this. As a young kid, he had a father that he adored, that was amazing. And his father made a sword for a guy with 6 fingers. The guy with 6 fingers came, took the sword, and stabbed Inigo Montoya's dad in the heart. Tragic. And if you're like, spoiler alert, okay, you haven't seen the movie, it's been out for like 40 years, okay? It's on you at this point. But anyway, good movie. Anyway, stabs him in the heart. So Inigo Montoya's like, I'm gonna fight this guy, and he tries to fight him as a young boy and gets destroyed because this guy's a much better fighter. And he gives him 2 scars on his cheeks. So Inigo Montoya goes out and becomes a absolutely amazing sword fighter. And he spends his entire life seeking revenge against the man with 6 fingers who killed his dad. One day he finally finds that guy, and after an epic sword fight, a heroic sword fight, he ends up killing that man. And he says to him the thing that he had been planning on saying his whole life as he plotted his revenge. Anyone remember what that phrase was? You gotta say it with some bravado. You say it with some bravado? I feel like you're ready to say it. Yes, go ahead. Inigo Montoya. Oof, that was, guys, snap it up for him. Snap it up. That was good. Some of you clearly can't snap. It's okay. We still love you. Some of you don't know how to snap. It's okay. You're just pretending so we don't look at you weird. I also never realized that when you snap, it's because your finger is hitting the palm. Did you ever realize that? So if you like block it, look, it doesn't make the noise. But it's the smacking like that. No, it's not the friction. It's not the friction of your finger. It's your finger hitting the thumb. No. But then it's making a noise as it hits your finger here, that you're covering it up. No, it's this finger, when you snap, hitting the palm, like the palm of your hand. No, but it's doing it right now. Your finger's hitting your palm. Like when you, look, when you're snapping, this finger is hitting right here. Yeah, that's what's making the noise. It's not the friction of the fingers. It's the finger hitting that. Okay, anyway, this is not what my sermon is about. I'm going to start over again. Shh. My parents' favorite movie as a kid was Saving... No, I'm kidding. So Inigo Montoya takes his entire life, and he's like, I'm going to find this guy. I'm going to stare him in his eyes, and I'm going to say, I'm going to kill you in all 6 of your fingers, or I guess 11 of your fingers, okay? I'm going to kill you because you wronged my father. It's this story of revenge. And he finally does it, and he's kind of like, I mean, now what? Like, what do I do with my life? I've been so pent up with this revenge. And there are so many movies and stories and books about revenge, how to get even with someone that did you wrong. And there's a certain satisfying feeling that people get. I wonder where it comes from. Or the satisfying feeling when someone else does something wrong to them and something bad happens to them. You're driving on the road and someone speeds by you and cuts you off, and then you're driving a little bit later and you see them pulled over on the side of the road with a cop, like, giving them a ticket, and you're like, like, you know, it just feels so satisfying, right? Like your little brother mocks you, like, oh, hey, you're like, you know, getting bad grades, ooh, and then your parents are like, your report card came back too, you got worse grades. You know, like just, oh, yes. You know, like this satisfying feeling of your little sibling or your older siblings, like, I'm faster than you on the bicycle. They hit a mailbox, they just flip over. You know, yes, justice is served. as they lay on the ground with flesh peeled back from their body from the asphalt pavement. Sorry, that's dramatic, but my brother did do that. He was passing me on the hill, and then he just... Sorry, I'm picturing the moment. I need to focus here, Alex. Get me focused. Bring it in. Okay, Rachel's not here, so bring it in, okay? But today's story is about forgiveness. And most people don't go like, yes, forgiveness. I love a good story about someone who does wrong and then you forgive them. Doesn't have the same oomph to it, you know? You're like, revenge, get even, forgive. Like, you know, it's just like, what? But I want to talk today about the power of forgiveness and why forgiveness actually takes more strength and is more important than revenge. And I want to talk to you today about the story of Joseph. So, you'll have to indulge me here. Previously on the Bible. Here's what's happened. There's a young man named Joseph. He's got a lot of older brothers and one younger brother. Well, Joseph's older brothers hated Joseph. Why? Because their dad liked Joseph more than anyone. You might say, oh, well, maybe he didn't. No, he kind of did. Okay, he bought nicer things for Joseph. Joseph would snitch on his older brothers when they did bad things, which I'm sure no sibling has ever done to their other siblings before. Never. Joseph also had this dream. And he's like, hey, bros, I had this dream last night. It's crazy. In this dream, all of you who are my older brothers bowed down to me, and I was in charge of all of you. And they're like, I hate you. They hated him so much. Then one day, when he was out in the field, and their dad sent him to spy on them and snitch on them, they see him coming from a distance, and they hatch an evil plan. And it is evil. Yes, their brother had irritated them. Yes, he had, perhaps you could argue, done wrong by them. But he didn't deserve, wasn't fair, what they did to him next. They captured him, beat him up, took his robe that their father had given him and ripped it up. And they threw him into a well to die and starve to death. Well, then a caravan was going by on its way to Egypt. And like, you know what? We could leave our brother in here to slowly die, or we could sell him into slavery, make some money, and then he could slowly die building the pyramids for the rest of his miserable existence. Let's do that. So they sell their own brother into slavery. And the last thing Joseph saw of his brothers as he's being pulled away into slavery was them counting the very money that they had made off of selling him. And for 22 years, he would live in Egypt before he saw them again. He went through being accused of crimes he didn't commit. He went through being in prison during this time. He went through a lot of ups and downs, but the biggest up was this. By the end of that time, or near the end, Pharaoh had a dream, and someone had heard that Joseph was good at interpreting dreams. And so Pharaoh could find no one who could interpret the dream, so he called for Joseph. Joseph comes before him, and Joseph tells him the dream and interprets it. And he goes, there's going to be 7 years of a lot of food and much, and then there's going to be 7 years of famine. And if you as a nation don't prepare when this famine comes, all of you will die. And so Pharaoh hears this and goes, Joseph, I'm promoting you to second in command of our empire, under only me. And he oversaw everything. And so for 7 years, he saved up a bunch of food. And then when the 7 years of famine came, he saved millions of lives. God used Joseph in an amazing way. We've done sermons on him before, but today I want to focus on him being reunited with his brothers. Imagine this moment in a movie. The main character for 22 years has been beaten up, sold into slavery. His father has actually been lied to. They took Joseph's robe that they ripped up, they dipped it in blood, and they brought it to their dad. And they're like, hey, we couldn't find Joseph, but we found this. I think he's dead, and some wild animals ate him. Which is horrible to do, so they lie to their father. All right? Then they sell him into slavery. Then he's lied about while he's there. He's thrown in jail for crimes he didn't commit. All these horrible things happen to him where he lives as a slave. Then he gets promoted. And then one day, he is sitting in a place of honor. And these foreigners come into the room. Joseph would have had guards standing all around him. The foreigners would have been unarmed as they come into his presence. Joseph is now second in command of the most powerful nation on the planet at the time. He has all the power, and he has all of this food. and he saved millions of lives. And in come these strangers, these travelers, and they say, we are brothers from a distant land. We've come here in search of food. We are hungry and will surely die if you don't help us. And they bow down low before him. And they don't recognize who they're talking to. They're talking to their little brother, Joseph. Joseph has a different name. He's dressed very differently. He probably even has on Egyptian makeup. And they would never recognize him, much less think he's even still alive, much less think that he's been promoted to second in charge. And so they see this guy in a position of authority above them, and they bow down, and they are literally begging for their lives. And if you know the story, it goes something like this. Joseph sees them bowing down, begging for their lives, and he releases a laugh. It is me, Joseph. You tried to kill me and lied to my father. Prepare to die. He then has the guards capture his brothers. They hang them upside down and give them 1,000 paper cuts each as they slowly bleed. I'm kidding. That doesn't happen, okay? It's not a revenge story, okay? Instead, he goes, you will now starve to death in your own well that I have dug for you. Each of you will have... I'm kidding. He doesn't do that either. He doesn't get even with them. He has all the power to do it, where he could snap his fingers and bring rightness or justice as he sees it to the world. He could have said, you are going to be a slave for 22 years. You are going to be thrown in prison as I was thrown in prison. Or you deserve death as you sentenced me to death. But instead, Joseph responds differently. Let's read here, after some really fun, and you should read it sometime, back and forth that Joseph has with his brothers, because they don't know who he is and he knows who they are. Joseph reveals who he is to them. Read with me here, chapter 45, verse 1. Joseph could stand it no longer. There were many people in the room, and he said to his attendants, out, all of you. So he was alone with his brothers when he told them who he was. Then he broke down and wept. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians could hear him, and the word of it carried to Pharaoh's palace. By the way, if you're crying so loud your neighbors are aware of it, you're crying pretty loud, okay? Joseph then speaks to them. And it says that he sent everyone out of the room, which means he's now speaking to them without an interpreter. You see, Joseph had been pretending he doesn't speak their native language. And he probably was speaking like an Egyptian to an interpreter who then was speaking to him. So he sends the interpreter out, and suddenly they're kind of creeped out, like, whoa, how does this guy know our native language from thousands of miles away? And imagine being a brother. You sold your brother into slavery, you think he's dead, and he has all this power and authority over you to either not give you food and let you die, or order guards to slit your throat. And then here's the next thing he says to you, in English, in your native language. I am Joseph. Right there, okay, right there, like, uh-oh. Like, you know, like, uh-oh. Like, you're kind of like, hey, bro. Like, so you're totally not dead. I was building the pyramids. You know, like, oh, man, this is awkward. He says, I am Joseph, he said to his brothers. Is my father still alive? But listen, but his brothers were speechless. They didn't know what to say. What could they say? They were stunned to realize that Joseph was standing there right in front of him. And probably at this point, he's crying a lot. His mascara or his makeup had run, you know. It's like, ah! Like, guys, I don't think we've really dealt with this before. Apparently, it's a thing to cry with makeup on. I don't know, girls. Is it tricky? Not fun? Looks difficult. I don't know. You're just like wiping it away. Makeup still confuses me, I'll be honest. Eyeliner, scary. You're taking a pencil, you're drawing under your eyeball. Permanent blindness is just one bump in the car away from you. Terrifying to me. Anyway, focus. Okay, moving on. So he's crying like crazy. He reveals who he is to his brothers. They're kind of nervous to say anything. And he says, please come closer to me, which probably means they hear, I'm Joseph, and they're like, like, you know, they're backing up. He's like, come here, give me a hug. And they're like, is this a trap? Like, what's going on? He says, please come closer to me, he said to them. So they came closer, and he said to them, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery. Prepare to die. No, he says, don't be upset, and don't be angry with yourselves for selling me to this place. It was God who sent me here ahead of you to preserve your lives. This famine that has ravaged the land for 2 years will last 5 more years, and they will neither plow nor harvest. God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive and to preserve many survivors. Pause there. Joseph would go on to honor his brothers, to love them, to feed them. He invites his entire family, including his father, Jacob, to Egypt, where they live in luxury for the rest of their lives. But something interesting happens. When Jacob dies, all of the brothers are afraid. They think, okay, now Joseph is going to kill us. Now that our dad is dead, okay, and dad can't be like, don't kill your brothers. Now he's going to kill us. And Joseph goes to him and goes, guys, don't you understand? I have forgiven you. You've been forgiven. God has worked out good in this situation, but more so, I forgive you, though you've done me wrong. And so let's talk about forgiveness. Everyone in this room has had something wrong done to them, and you didn't deserve it. It wasn't fair. Maybe it was a small slight, like someone taking your Cool Ranch Doritos and crunching them up into little bits and then putting them back into the bag. Sorry, my little sibling did that to me just to spite me. He crumbled the chips and then goes, ha, 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 ha. And I go, ha, 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 ha. Anyway, moving on. No, maybe. No, maybe. No. Anyway, maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's a big thing. Maybe they spread a lie about you, or they physically harmed you or hit you, or maybe they just truly kicked you out of a group chat and you feel left out or had to hang out without inviting you. Maybe it goes deeper than that and is realer than that. But I think what happens at first is we think, this person has done wrong to me. They deserve punishment. They have been cruel. They have been wrong. So therefore, they deserve some sort of justice to be carried out upon them. But forgiveness is to say, it is not my place to bring judgment to you. And though you wound me, you hurt me, I extend love and I release what you have done wrong to me. Doesn't mean that it didn't hurt you. It means that you have decided to move beyond it, to not harbor hatred in your heart towards that person, to not desire that bad things would happen to them, but in fact, desire good for those who wound you. So let's break this down a little bit. Forgiveness has no limit, and forgiveness is not fair. Forgiveness has no limit, and forgiveness isn't fair. In the Bible, it talks about forgiving others, and Jesus' disciples were kind of trying to brag to Jesus. And one of the disciples goes up to Jesus and goes, hey, Jesus, if somebody's really mean to me, maybe they were mean to me and they do something wrong and I forgive them once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, maybe even 6 times, maybe, no, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, forgives another time, up to 7 times. No, I didn't do it in order. You can't do that. Rebellious children. Anyway, moving on. I forgive you. Moving on, okay? After 7 times, should I still forgive them? Now, the disciple saying this was basically saying to Jesus, look, if I'm a really good person and I forgive them 7 times, is that enough? And he thinks the answer will be, of course that's enough. And Jesus goes, no, you should forgive them 70 times 7 times. Now, some of you were like, 70 times 7? Okay, my little brother has definitely done more than that, okay? That's 490 times they've done wrong by you. Some of you are like, I am released. I can now cease forgiving my little sibling, okay, or older sibling, because they've definitely done more than 490 things wrong to me. That is not what Jesus was saying. Jesus was using a hyperbole to say basically, hey, you should forgive every time, always. Doesn't matter how great the thing that they've done wrong to you. Doesn't matter how many times they repeat it. All should be forgiven. Now, I'll pause here for just a moment and give what I'll call a caveat, or I'll call a disclaimer, okay? We are called to forgive everyone. But if someone is actively wounding you, it might change the relationship that you have with them, and that's okay. If you've got a great friend and they keep doing wrong by you, maybe you should back away from that friendship. Jesus does not say you must be friends with every single person, because you can't be friends with every single person. He does say to love everyone, but I can love a stranger. I can love an acquaintance. differently than I might express my love for a best friend. We are actively not called to hate other people, but I can hate the wrong that they have done towards me and acknowledge that was not fair. They gossiped about me, and that hurt, and that was wrong. It's not wrong of me to acknowledge that they've hurt me. It's also not wrong, again, to back away from a relationship where it's like, this is toxic or hurtful towards me. You are not bound to be friends with the same people forever. You might even have family members that maybe in the future it is necessary for you to grow distant or apart from them, though you still love them and you don't harbor hatred towards them. But in a room this big, I'm sure that if we open the microphone, we could share a lot of stories of people who have done wrong to you. You didn't deserve it. It wasn't fair. And yet they continued in the wrong that they did towards you. And for that, can I just say, I'm sorry. Not sorry because I played any role in it, but I'm sorry that it happened to you. And God looks at that and says, that's wrong. You didn't deserve that. It's not fair. I say this because one of the lies Satan will tell you is, you know what? They treated you badly because it's you are bad. You deserve to be treated this way. And it's not true. So people will treat you in a way that is not fair, but you are then called to forgive them in a way that is not fair. If someone asks you to forgive them, you can't say, well, I'll forgive you if, right? Joseph didn't say, hey, listen, I will forgive you guys after you do 22 years in slavery. I'll forgive you if you provide me enough money. I'll forgive you if you give me your bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, okay? That's not how it works. If they choose to try and make amends, that's fine. But the forgiveness should be freely given, not earned. It is extended to someone. Sometimes people will continually be harming you, repeatedly be harming you. And you must continually extend this forgiveness. But again, if someone is continually harming you and not repenting or saying sorry, maybe back away. Maybe don't have anything to do with that anymore. Don't hate them in your heart, but release that. Another example that is given to us of forgiveness, or at least point to it, is forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision. Maybe in Joseph's heart, when he saw his brothers, he felt all this warm, tingly, lovey-dovey feelings toward them. Or maybe there was some hurt there. Maybe he had worked through his hurt way earlier, when he had years sitting in jail all alone. Maybe he had actively forgiven his brothers then. But sometimes you will not feel like forgiving someone, and you need to choose to do it anyway. There's a story of a lady named Corrie ten Boom. You may have heard her story before. She was arrested by the Nazis because she was hiding Jews, and Nazis were trying to capture them and kill them in these concentration camps. And so she was caught and found out because someone betrayed her, which wasn't fair to her, and exposed that she was hiding Jews in her home. They arrested her and some of her family members, and several of her family members died in those concentration camps. She had a tattoo put on her body and spent years in hard labor and horrible living conditions, barely surviving. And afterwards, she wrote a book about her experience, and God used her experience quite mightily. And she was at a church in America years later sharing her story. And as she was sharing her story, she was preaching about forgiveness. And afterwards, she gets down, she shares the story, she prays, she finishes, and kind of like I'm down here after I preach, someone walks down the aisle, and she immediately recognized him. He was one of the guards at the concentration camp where she had been. She had witnessed him abuse people, be cruel to people, herself and others that she loved. Men walked down the aisle and said, I've heard what you've said. I've become a Christian since everything that I did, and I'm truly sorry. Will you forgive me? And he extended his hand. The same hand that would beat or point or harm so many of the people that she loved and herself now stood open before her, saying, will you forgive me? Corrie ten Boom would later write about the event, and she said, to be honest, I did not want to shake his hand. I did not want to forgive him, but I felt the Holy Spirit commanding me to, and I felt the Holy Spirit extending my hand for me, empowering me to reach my arm out and embrace him. When she shook that man's hand, she actually pulled him in and gave him a hug, and that man wept and cried because he experienced forgiveness that man could not deserve. That man could have gone to soup kitchens for the rest of his life, led Bible studies, gone to church, and it's not like he could have done enough to truly weigh out what he had done. Frankly, who could ever weigh out the bad things they've done with good things that they've done? But she decided to forgive him in that moment. And she said the decision to forgive came from this truth. She said, I have been forgiven by Jesus. Therefore, I need to forgive others. I have been forgiven by Jesus. Therefore, I need to forgive others. Colossians chapter 3, verse 13 says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Not some. Anyone who offends you. Then the next verse tells you why. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. I want you to look at this list. Jesus offers forgiveness to you and I. He doesn't put a limit on his forgiveness. He doesn't go, well, I can forgive you, but only if you haven't done certain sins. I can forgive you, but if you keep sinning, can't forgive you. I can forgive you, but if you reach a certain age and you're still sinning, I can't. What does he say? For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believes in him, anyone who believes in him, shall not perish but have everlasting life. There is no sin greater than the forgiveness of Jesus. His love is greater than your sin. I heard someone struggling with this. Like, I don't understand. How can I do bad things and I keep struggling and fighting against sin and I keep doing bad things? How is it that God keeps forgiving me? The pastor said, well, his love is more powerful than your ability to sin. He is always going to be beyond you in love than you are capable. You are not able to be evil enough that God would not forgive if you humble yourself and say, God, I'm sorry for my sin. Forgive me. I believe in you, Jesus. If you put your faith in Jesus and ask him to forgive your sin, you will always receive forgiveness every time. This is what he's saying to his brothers here. Don't hate yourselves. Brothers, don't be so hard on yourselves. Let it go. I've let it go. You should let it go now. And yet you and I sin. And what do? I'm the worst. How could God love me? That was it. If I got what was fair, I deserve to go to hell. I feel like I don't deserve heaven. Jesus decided by looking at you, I love you and I'll die for you. Jesus has spoken, I will give you what is not fair. You will be forgiven, though you don't deserve it. I want you to think about something. Jesus was betrayed, lied about. He was then physically beaten, had a trial that wasn't fair, and was convicted of crimes that he did not commit. Then he had to drag a cross up a hill to where then when he got to the top, he was nailed to that cross and raised up to be publicly shamed and killed. And the whole time this is happening, Roman guards are mocking him. Jewish religious leaders are teasing him and throwing things at him. And as he bleeds and dies and gasps for breath, one of the last things that Jesus says is, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. If Jesus can forgive the men that put nails through his hands, lied about him, spit on him, hit him in the face, and pushed a crown of thorns onto his head, can he not also forgive you and forgive me? And if you as a Christian are like, wow, what a wonderful thing. I didn't deserve to be forgiven, but you forgave me anyway. I keep making mistakes, and yet your love is greater than my mistakes. I'm not given what is fair by you, Jesus, but you give me love. Though you should give me anger and wrath, you offer love. Then for us to look at other people and say, hey, you've sinned too many times. I can't forgive you. In fact, I hate you. Hey, you've done too much that was bad to me. I hate you. Hey, I'm not feeling forgiving you today. It's been too much. It's over. How can we do that? How can we experience forgiveness from Jesus and then not seek to give it to others? Now, what you might be saying is, Barrett, you don't know my story, and you're right. I don't know your story. I don't know the pain that you've gone through. I guarantee you didn't deserve it. I guarantee you it hurt. But we need to release the hatred that we might cling to in our hearts towards someone else or what they've done to us, so that we can embrace the love of Jesus. You must let go of the thing that traps you. There's an old story given about how they used to catch monkeys in the jungle. What they would do is they'd take these water jugs and they would drop either a trinket or a toy, or they would drop something into the water jug. And the monkeys would come along, they would see the water jug, and they'd tie the water jug up to something. And the monkey would reach its hand in, and it could slip its hand through the little small hole. If you've seen those big water jugs, they turn upside down in an office. And it would reach its hand and it would grab something, and then it would pull. But because it was making a fist, it wouldn't fit through the opening anymore. So when its hand was slender, it could fit through and it could go in. But when it grabbed onto the thing that was inside, it couldn't. And so it was yanking and pulling all it wanted and screaming and being angry and crazy. But its curiosity and its desire for the thing that was in them would cause them to be trapped to that water jug until their captors came and captured them and either sold them or ended up eating them. You hear that, and you think, why don't you just let go? And if you could ask the monkey through a translator, perhaps, the monkey would say, because I wanted what was inside, and I was holding on to it. See, when we hold on to hatred, we trap ourselves. We trap ourselves. And you think, well, just let go. It's not that easy. They hurt me. They wronged me. This isn't fair. I didn't deserve this, and you're right. But when you hold on to that, all you have done is trapped yourself to the pain and the hurt that someone else caused you. You are actually being enslaved by that other person. You're allowing them to control you. But when you release that and you embrace the forgiveness of Jesus, you then are not controlled by them any longer. The people you hate, you have actually allowed to impact your life. What if you let go of that hatred and you said, I'm going to allow Jesus to direct my life, not the people I hate, not the people who have wronged me. You're giving them control. I was meeting with a student once, and they were an old student of mine who was now much older, and they were in college. And they came back and they were sharing with me, and they're like, hey, my parents did some pretty horrible things to me. I didn't like my parents. They claimed to love Jesus. They took me to church, but now I hate them. And I'm like, well, thank you for being honest. And we were talking. And they're like, yeah, and I've also left Christianity. I left the faith. I said, really? And like, yeah, it feels like a way to stick it to my parents. They literally said that to me. And they're like, yeah, I'm basically partying and I'm doing all these different things and I'm enjoying the freedom and it's fun, but also it feels good. I'm like, why does it feel good? I'm like, well, it feels good because I'm showing my parents that they don't control me. So I'm doing all the things they told me not to do. And I said, well, let's think about that. If your parents made a list of what to do and you did it because they forced you to, you would say they control you. And they're like, yeah. I said, okay. So if your parents make a list and you feel trapped by your anger and your hatred of them to do the opposite of the list that your parents made, isn't it kind of your parents who are controlling you? Because you are doing the opposite of whatever they chose. Your rebellion is actually you in control or being controlled by your parents because you are, so I'm going to do the opposite of what they want me to do. But they are still choosing what you do. It's just the opposite. It's being bound up in your hatred of someone If you're like driving in your car and you're so mad because someone cut you off and you refuse to forgive them, you're just fuming mad at them. Like, oh, I can't believe that. Or I can't believe my friend kicked me out of a group chat. Or I can't believe my teacher gave me such a stupid grade. And then you take that home with you, that anger, that hatred, and you haven't let it go. You are then allowing your teacher or your friend or the person who cut you off to ruin the rest of your day. Have they ruined it? Or have you allowed them to control you? Have you allowed them to then control the way you are in the car ride home with your parents? Have you allowed them then to control the way you view your life? I want you to think about that. You are giving them control rather than saying, Jesus, will you control my life? Will you dictate my life? Can I be controlled and led by the Holy Spirit, not be led by my spirit of anger or hatred? Because hatred leads you nowhere positive. Even when you think you get your revenge or get even, sometimes you're wrong. Maybe you get your vengeance only to realize, wait, oh, that person wasn't the actual one who hurt me. Or maybe you get your vengeance, but you overcorrect. Your sibling says something mean to you, and so you hit them in the face, and they go down, and you're like, oh, that wasn't fair. I overdid it. So then should they hit you in the face back? Like, what is fair? Who gets to determine this? The answer is God. God will ultimately, please hear this if you've been hurt by someone else. God will perfectly punish every single action that has been committed against you. Every single word or deed or horrible thing directed at his children will be punished exactly, perfectly, fully. It will be exposed to the world and then punished. You might say, well, what about people that are Christians and have been forgiven? Their sin was punished too. Jesus took that punishment. Because please recognize this as I'm talking about forgiveness. There are people in this world that need to forgive you, that you have done wrong by, that you have hurt, that you have spoken wrong about, that you've gossiped about, that you have in some way wounded, or some person that you will. And if you wish for them to forgive you, you must also forgive others. Jesus has taken the beating and the punishment that you deserve for all of your sin. And one day, either those who enter into heaven who have received the forgiveness from Jesus and he took the punishment that they deserved, or those who have done wrong by you will end up going to hell, and there they will be punished for what they have done. So God will get justice, but we need to recognize that he is the one to carry these things out, not ourselves. All right? If you guys have questions, I'm up here, but service is done. I think you guys are free to go. Have a good one, guys.